Guess what, guys? I now have an official Discord server. If you guys want to go and join, the link is in the description and the pinned comment in the comment section. I'll see you guys there. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. It's Ander or FAI Open Up here, and today here's a guide regarding a particular oil-efficient fleet strategy, the Fletcher Fleets, as well as their backline, the battle monitors Erebus and Terror. Together, this fleet shines exceptionally well for farming the Fox Mines, aka Stage 3-4, and in this video I'll tell you exactly why. As stated in the other video, this fleet is more catered towards the mid to later game and is not for newer players to go and do, since you will need a good amount of skill books and at least purple equipment to make a good farming fleet. With that being said, this is the fleet I'm going to be covering today, and I hope you will enjoy this guide. So moving on to the Fletcher fleet, they are a super cost-efficient, high-performing Vanguard fleet that is also great for farming stages up to Chapter 5 if you do not limit break them. This centers around, as the name suggests, a max-skilled Limit Break 0 Fletcher who buffs two other Ray Rarity Fletcher class destroyers, such as Aulic over here, and Foot, and there is also Spence, but I do not have her leveled up, which gives them inflated stats through these two skills right here, and it will enhance their DPS and make them much better. As a disclaimer, there are a lot of other Fletcher class destroyers that are higher rarity, such as Charles, Osborne, and Thatcher, but since they are higher rarity, they cost more oil, and they are therefore not as oil efficient, so I will not be including them in this Fletcher fleet. Now, the strength of the Fletcher fleet, as stated earlier, these two skills right here from Fletcher greatly increase the DPS, and when compared to a zombie fleet, they can deal a lot more damage than a zombie fleet, and they can clear battles much faster than compared to having only Cassin and Downs. Now, keep in mind that since you do have a 2-cost Fletcher here, a 1-cost Aulic Foot too, you will have a slightly, ever so slightly, higher oil cost than just using Cassin and Downs, but in return, the Fletcher fleet will give you a much higher DPS and can finish battles much faster, saving you plenty of time. Now, just like Cassin and Downs, you would want to keep them at level 70, Limit Break 0, or else they would cost more oil. For instance, if you limit broke your Fletcher, it would go up to 4 oil instead of 2 oil per battle. Now, due to this, since you are not limit breaking them, their performance will fall off on later stages, so that's why I would recommend you could probably get at least up to Chapter 5 with them, but no more for efficient and consistent farming. They shine especially well for 3-4. I personally used them for all my farming when I was down at the Fox Mines, trying to get duplicates of Akiyuki and Kaga. They use such a small amount of oil, as you can see, 2 plus 1 and another 1, so that's 4 in the Vanguard, plus your backline, which would be Terror Erebus, would give you another 4. So in total it would only be 8 oil per run, meaning that they will be very oil efficient. You can basically run them all day in the Fox Mines, and you will still have plenty of oil to have stored up. Now, by the time you are willing to grind this map for an eternity, you would probably have at least a couple of purple gears and a good amount of skill books saved up to start leveling up some other ships other than your main fleets. This is because you will need to level up both of Fletcher's skills right here, as they give a much bigger DPS boost. For instance, Sister's Temperament, her first yellow skill, will give a very solid 30% to firepower and evasion, meaning that they will do plenty more damage. Now with that, it also goes with this buff right here, Tactical Command Destroyers, which gives another 10% firepower, as well as torpedo and reload, meaning that they will have a much better buff, and much bigger buff actually, when Fletcher's skills over here are maxed out. Now, you don't really need to focus too much on the other two Fletchers, like their skills. It is good to have a little bit, but you don't really need to. Most of the damage comes from these two Fletcher skills right here. Now for gears, you will need at least purple gears so that they can be consistently clearing that stage without too much hassle. It doesn't have to be too good if you're farming 3-4, as you can see here. I don't even have my Fletcher's skills all the way leveled up, and I can do it just fine. +6 purple gears are definitely fine enough. For the main gun, you can always go with the very affordable and accessible twin 127mm. And then for torpedoes, it doesn't matter too much, just use whatever purple or gold one you have. Obviously, if you do have the gold ones and you're willing to put them on your farming fleet, go ahead and put them on your Fletcher, your Aulic, your Foot, and your Spence if you do have her. Your AA gun does not really matter too much if you're farming 3-4. Anti-air in that stage is not really too big of a deal until you hit, of course, chapter 13. For aux gears, it also doesn't matter too much because they will be able to clear the stages without too much hassle of being sunk. They're pretty bulky. You could always slap on a fire suppressor and a repair toolkit. They're always pretty good, just for that extra survivability. And onto the backline for the Fletcher fleet, you would want Terror or Erebus. Now, if you have both and you want to only pick one, Erebus is the better of the two. Now, they have the exact same stats, so here's Terror over here, except there's one thing. Terror has only 19 luck. Oh yeah, and they also have the same exact skill. While Erebus, if I can find her, she is going to be right here, Erebus. They have the exact same skill, the only thing is that Erebus over here has 91 luck instead. Now, this higher luck stat will mean that she has a higher chance of hitting the enemy and avoiding enemies' attacks, as well as having a higher chance to land and avoid critical hits. So if you're wondering which one is the better of the two, Erebus wins that out. But don't fret if you have your Terror leveled up first, like me, as you can go back to Terror right here. Okay, for some reason my ships decided to go and randomly vanish for a couple of seconds. Moving back to Terror, if you do have her skill already upgraded right here and your Erebus isn't, the difference is not too big, and if you do just have her being used, it's not going to be too noticeable of a difference during battles. Anyway, why would you want to use them as your backline? Well, they are classified as a battle monitor, meaning that they cost less than the same rarity battleship or battle cruiser. Now, if your battleship or battle cruiser that is purple rarity, they would probably be at least 6 oil at this stage, while Terror and Erebus are only at a very reasonable 4. So this would also mean that they have less stats compared to a battleship or battle cruiser, but it is still not enough to be able to farm the stages up to chapter 5 with relatively no problem. So you don't really have to worry about that too much. Now, along with being oil efficient, since they are battle monitors, they also have a, well, not just because they have battle monitors, well, they are battle monitors, they have this very useful skill, Infinite Darkness. It fires a powerful barrage every 20 seconds, well, it has a chance to, and this barrage is actually really good, and it is able to clear the screen. And on 3-4, if it procs, it will basically be able to win the battle in the next few seconds. I'll demonstrate this in my battle showcase coming up soon. Hopefully their skills proc when it does happen. Make sure to level up this red skill for Erebus or Terror, as it will do much more damage as well as having a much higher proc chance, since the damage is based off of the skill level like any battleship barrage, or battle monitor, or battle cruiser barrage. Some of you guys are really picky with my wording. Anyway, at max level they have a much higher chance of proccing at a nice and reasonable 60%, which is kind of in the middle. Not 75% like some battleships, and it's not low like 40%, so that's always good. Onto gear, you don't really have to be too good with them if you're farming 3-4 once again. A very nice purple 410mm mounted gun is good as your main gun. It's got a faster fire rate, meaning that it will be able to shoot around the same 20-second range as her barrage right here, which is every 20 seconds. The reload for this 410mm is 21 seconds. This will mean that it'll just increase your chance of having your salvo to actually hit something, since if the barrage does actually proc, then this mounted gun salvo will probably be pretty useless because the barrage will be able to clear the screen just by itself, and she might not even be able to activate her main gun if she has a higher reload gun. Now onto auxiliary guns. The battle monitors can only equip DD guns, so they are kind of bad against guarding against suicide boats, which is their only job as an auxiliary gun. The most accessible choice would be the twin 127mm right here. If you do have the single 138mm, it is better, but it is also event locked, so most people will probably not have it for farming. Keep in mind that, as I said earlier, these guns do not deal a lot of single shot damage, meaning a lot, and I mean almost all of them. All of these suicide boats that will manage to escape right past your vanguards will probably be able to detonate and deal a massive amount of damage to your Terror or Erebus. Now AA guns do not matter too much, so just put on whatever purple you have. And auxiliaries, as I just said that the auxiliary gun is not that good, you will need a lot of HP, because battle monitors are pretty fragile, at only 1600 at level 70. This means that a couple of suicide boats can actually take them out, so being able to have that extra couple 500, 350 over here HP pool is going to actually be very useful for them. Now, because of this, I would recommend putting some repair toolkits on them. If you have any other HP boosting gears such as fire extinguishers, that are also very, very good. Now, with all of those gear and fleet explanations out of the way, let's move on to the battle showcase. Since my main selling point for this fleet was to farm 3-4, I will do a full run of 3-4 with all the highlights included. Now, as a PSA, if your two other Grey Rarity destroyers are not doing so good, and they might sink, just put Fletcher in this left corner right here as the front, so that she will take most of the damage, while these other two will be relatively safer. So let's go and hop into the battles. And maybe I'll even get an extra Kaga or Akagi in the process, even though I don't really need them right now. But you know what? My recording luck could turn out for the better. Oop. 3, and let's go. Moving on to the first battle. As you can see, they are glowing red because of Fletcher's buffs that she just gave. And as you can also see, they deal a very solid amount of damage, and they can actually deal with all these ships, unlike Cassin and Downs, by themselves without any backline support. Now coming up is Terror, shooting her barrage. Well, actually she missed her first Absolute Darkness at the 2:40 minute mark, well 2:40 mark. But anyway, as you can see, you don't even need your Terrors to actually proc. Your Fletcher fleet can handle it just fine and deal a good amount of damage. Here's battle number 2, and let's just watch as the Fletcher fleet does some serious work against these very puny level 32 ships that they encounter. Now let's hit the 2:40 mark and let's see if Terra wants to proc her skill. Okay, here we go, Infinite Darkness. It's a big buff. Well, it's a big barrage. And look, it clears the whole screen, and there you go, we win the battle almost instantly. That's just an example of what happens if your Absolute Darkness does proc for a 3-4. Terror will basically just win the battle straight up for you, and that's all for it. Battle number 3 has commenced, and let's just see. Also, if you can note, you can also see how they barely take any damage whatsoever. This is just meaning that they are pretty good, and they don't really need too much gear for it. Now, right there, Terror actually did manage to go and beat that suicide boat, and just like that, Infinite Darkness, and the battle is won in 13 seconds. Actually, 23 seconds. But in total, all of those mob fleet battles are only a minute, so you will save plenty of time when farming 3-4 for this. Now, if your Fletcher fleet is good enough, they can actually be able to handle the boss fleet quite well too. But if you find that they're having trouble defeating the boss for 3-4, you can always switch to your second fleet, and that will probably not be too big of a deal. Of course, it'll cost probably a little more oil, but if you can clear those mob fleets with Fletcher and her fleet, it'll be pretty good still. Now, the one thing to worry about the boss fleet mostly is your backline Terror or Erebus, and her ability to deal with the suicide boats and airplanes coming towards her. Now, your Fletcher fleet will be able to survive just fine, but your Terror, as you can see, is taking a little bit of backline damage. In most cases, she will be able to win the battle, just like that, if her skill does want to proc, but if you do not have that extra survivability, it might come down to the wire where there's a couple more suicide boats, and usually she'll be able to get the job done. But just do keep that in mind because she is a very fragile backliner, and if you don't finish the battle fast enough, she does have a very large chance of sinking. And I didn't get Akagi or Kaga, but you know, that's just to be expected. Now with that showcase finished, that will wrap up my video regarding the oil-efficient 3-4 farming strategy, the Fletcher Fleet. As always, if you found this information helpful, consider dropping a like and subscribing. Don't forget to press that notification bell if you want to go and be notified of my future uploads as well. Feel free to leave a comment if you have any questions that need to be answered, and I'll try my best to reply. Now, that's all I have for this video, so don't forget to join that Azur Lane Discord server in the description or the pinned comment, and I'll see you around. Bye!